Well, just to elaborate a little bit further, what is supply chain management? It's getting all these things right. It's getting you the right product at the right place, the right quantity, and so on. And as consumers, as I said, we often take that for granted and just assume the stuff ends up at the grocery store and forget all the activities that take place to make that actually happen. We have very effective supply chains in North America. They're very efficient. They get us product from all over the world. And they open up opportunities for our product to move it all over the world, as we'll see in later presentations. We take many of the ag products we produce here in Michigan, and we can effectively service markets in Asia, Europe, and Latin America. Only when we have effective supply chains does that work. The MSU perspective of supply chain management thinks of it all the way from the raw material provider, where the product is grown, where the product comes out of the ground, where it comes out of the ocean, wherever the raw material comes from, all the way through the sourcing process, the manufacturing process, the value-added process, distribution, retailers, and ultimately to you and I, the end consumer. The only thing that really drives the supply chain is you and I buying and consuming a product. And whether that's you and I as consumers or the industries we represent in terms of production or the educational sector, the public sector in terms of that process. So we think of supply chains as really that total end-to-end process. And increasingly it's even going further, because not only is it delivering product to you and I, but we also have to worry about recycling and getting it back. So we're extending it even a little bit further in terms of the environmentalism of getting the product, the packaging, the waste back into the system and reprocessing it and reusing it, such as we do with aluminum cans here in Michigan and various other activities. So the supply chain is really very comprehensive. But some key themes in terms of the definition. The focus first has to be on the end consumer. It's you and I as the end users of the product. We're the ones that need to be satisfied, and we prefer to do it at low cost. In the U.S., we pay approximately 10% for logistics, for the delivery part of the supply chain. In Latin America, it's about 20%. So they're paying twice as much for the inefficiency that they have there. Now, that just demonstrates that extra 10% doesn't really give them additional service, it just costs them more. And that's obviously not a good thing. So focusing on the end consumer is the first thing. Second one is you have to think of a supply chain as an integration of a firm with other supply chain partners. We think of General Motors or Chrysler or Ford as a key part of the supply chain, and they absolutely are. But if you look at the extension of that supply chain to all their suppliers and their suppliers' suppliers and their suppliers' suppliers, we have global supply chains that we're operating in here, and then we carry that back onto the customers. And they all have to work together. One of the things we found out through the research that we did is one very strong characteristic of the upper Midwest region, and focusing on Michigan, is the ability to manage global supply chains. The expertise that the auto industry has developed is a real critical element that we have to market that is really rare in other parts of the world. Supply chains require an execution of a series of functions. My classic example of this one is I was teaching on campus, and I was demonstrating the flow of product from when an order is entered until the order is delivered to your house. And you can think of this as you place a mail order, an online request or internet request for a shipment from LL Bean or Amazon or something like that. And I was describing all the steps involved in this project for a student. And the young man in the back of the classroom raises his hand. He says, "Dr. Close, do we still do all those things?" So I was trying to think, what's this kid saying? And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He says, "Well, with the internet, do we still have all those steps like picking the order, transporting the order, and delivering and collecting money?" "Yeah, we still do all those things. They're just, you're not aware of them. They still have to be done. We don't ship stuff down the internet yet." And so that's like, it requires that we do all these physical things, but most of us take it for granted. And then increasingly we operate within resource constraints. We have a resource constraints in terms of fuel. We have resource constraints in terms of people. Certainly resource constraints in terms of financial capabilities. Yesterday I was talking to the people down at TACOM in Detroit, the tank command that monitors Army durable products or durable parts. And talking to them about the realization that they're operating with a lot less inventory budget in the future than they become used to. And so they have to understand that those resource constraints are there. This slide on the bottom sort of presents the percentage of dollars for some of the top 10 Fortune top 10 companies. And it amazed even me. The GM, 94% of their budget's in supply chain. Ford, 93%. Conoco, 90%. Walmart, 90%. Chevron, 88%. IBM, 77%. Exxon, 75%. GE, 69 or 63%. That's the percentage of the budget they put in supply chain activities. Huge. And that's in a combination of procurement, buying stuff, manufacturing, transporting, warehousing, delivery. Those are all the activities that are coming into supply chain. And by making a supply chain more efficient, you can see the phenomenal opportunity to reduce costs or take money out of the operation of a firm and make it more effective.